Chapter 1, Section 1, The Study of Life. Key concept. Biologists study life in all its forms. Main ideas. Earth is home to an incredible diversity of life. Biology is the scientific study of all forms of life. And humans have studied living things throughout history. First main idea. Earth is home to an incredible diversity of life. In Yellowstone National Park, there are pools of hot water as acidic as vinegar. It might be difficult to believe, but those pools are also full of life. Life is found in the darkness of the deepest ocean floors and in thousands of year-old ice in Antarctica. Not only are living things found just about everywhere on Earth, but they also have come in a huge variety of shapes and sizes. Plants, for example, include tiny mosses and giant redwood trees on which moss can grow. There are massive animals such as blue whales, which are the largest animal ever to live on the Earth. There are tiny animals such as the honeypot ant, as is shown on the screen here, which can store so much food for other ants that it swells to the size of a grape. All living things and all the places they are found on Earth make up the biosphere. Every part of the biosphere is connected, however distantly, with other parts of the biosphere. The biosphere includes land environments such as deserts, grasslands, and different types of forests. The biosphere also includes saltwater and freshwater environments, as well as portions of the atmosphere. And different types of plants, animals, and other living things are found in different areas of the biosphere. Even the inside of your nose, which is home to bacteria and fungi, is part of the biosphere. The variety of organisms in a given area is called biological diversity, or biodiversity. Biodiversity generally increases from Earth's poles to the equator. More living things are able to survive in consistently warm temperatures than in areas that have large temperature changes throughout the year. Because more living things, especially plants, can survive in warm areas, those areas provide a larger, more consistent food supply for many species. There are several ways the term species can be defined. One definition of species is a group of organisms that are closely related and can produce fertile offspring. About 2 million different living species have been identified, but biologists estimate that tens of millions of species remain to be discovered. Over half of the known species are insects, but no one knows how many insect species actually exist. Every year, biologists discover more than 10,000 new species. In contrast, some scientists estimate that over 50,000 species die out or become extinct every year. Occasionally, however, a species thought to be extinct is found again. For example, the ivory-billed woodpecker was thought to have become extinct in 1944, but a team of scientists reported seeing it in Arkansas in 2004. Second main idea. Biology is the scientific study of all forms of life. The diverse organisms that live on Earth relate and interact with other organisms and their environments. The figure on the screen here shows a bee collecting pollen from a flower, an interaction that benefits both the bee and the plant. When a bee collects pollen to use as food, the pollen sticks to the bee's body. Then, as the bee flies from plant to plant, the pollen from one plant is left behind on other plants. This interaction pollinates the plants and allows them to reproduce. Biology, or life science, is the scientific study of living things and their interactions with their environment. The study of living things sheds new light on our understanding of humans and our world. For example, until chimpanzees were observed to use sticks and other tools to hunt insects and other organisms, high intelligence and the ability to make and use tools were considered strictly human characteristics. Science is the knowledge obtained by observing natural events and conditions in order to discover facts and formulate laws or principles that can be verified or tested. People who contribute to science come from all backgrounds and different fields of interest. Biology is one of the three basic areas of science: life science, earth science, and physical science. Third main idea: humans have studied living things throughout history. The study of living things began long before the invention of computers, microscopes, or other scientific tools and techniques. Early records, such as the prehistoric cave painting on the screen here, show that prehistoric people were interested in the animals they observed and used as food. Other art, carvings, and papyri show that early humans began to understand basic biological concepts such as anatomy, medicinal use of herbs, and embalming. Evidence shows that some human populations began domesticating animals as early as 8500 BCE. Even without knowing it, these early humans were using genetics to select for characteristics that were most valuable in the organism, such as high milk production and taste or high yield in crops. Many ancient civilizations studied biology. Just as we do now, they learned about natural processes and used this knowledge to address the needs of society. Asian civilizations used herbal medicines. South American civilizations developed agricultural techniques such as crop domestication and irrigation. Ancient Egyptian civilizations practiced mummification of royalty, nobility, and the wealthy, as is shown on the screen here. Greek civilization made significant contributions to the development of life science. They are credited with originating the basic principles of modern science. Around 400 BCE, the Greek physician Hippocrates established a school of medicine. He taught that all living bodies were made up of four humors, or fluids: blood, black bile, phlegm, and yellow bile. Imbalances in the four humors were thought to cause most illnesses. The first classification system for living organisms is attributed to the Greek philosopher Aristotle and dates back to 330 BCE. Aristotle's system divided animals up into those with red blood, such as wolves and rabbits, and those without blood, such as mollusks and arthropods. Aristotle is also credited with developing a system of logic and a dependence on empirical evidence in science. Scientists of any era are limited by the demands and rules of society. The ancient Greek and Roman societies are known for their milestones in science and philosophy, but changes in politics and governance also influenced the progression of science. The Middle Ages of European history, somewhere between the 500s and 1450s CE, are marked by little scientific development, though scientific knowledge continued to grow in other parts of the world, such as India and China. 15th century European societies gave rise to a renewal of interest in art and science and the beginning of the scientific revolution, the 1450s through 1700. Early in this time period, Italian artist and scientist Leonardo da Vinci began close studies of the anatomy of both animals and humans. The drawing Vitruvian Man, shown on the screen here, gives evidence of Leonardo's detailed understanding of anatomy and movement. His legacy includes the introduction of systematic observation and documentation methods, which are still used today. Andrea Vesalius, a Flemish physician, published a book of anatomy in the mid-1500s. Vesalius challenged anatomical concepts made from limited observations by the ancient Greeks. Vesalius practiced dissection of corpses, so his descriptions of anatomy were based on repeated explorations of the insides of bodies, whereas the Greeks based their descriptions only on external observation and philosophy. Scientific understanding is always limited by available technology. Many of the advances in biology and other areas of science that have occurred throughout the scientific revolution were made possible by new technologies. For example, the invention of the microscope around the start of the 1600s allowed for the discovery of cells and microorganisms. The Industrial Revolution, which began in the last half of the 18th century, brought about significant advances in science. Travel and communication allowed for the exchange of ideas. Universities developed robust science programs, and technology enabled scientists to explore the natural world with greater accuracy and precision. Such explorations led to new knowledge and built upon or replaced old knowledge. For example, the development of cell theory replaced the notion of spontaneous generation, a belief that some life forms arose from non-living matter. Experiments from Louis Pasteur in 1859, using the broth in the experiment shown on the screen here, demonstrated that living things did not come from non-living matter, but were the result of reproduction by other living things. As a result of this and other studies, 3 German scientists, Theodor Swan, Matthias Sladen, and Rudolf Virchow, proposed a theory summarizing the basic properties of living organisms. These basic concepts are collectively known as the cell theory. You will learn more about cell theory in the chapter titled Cell Structure and Function. Other important advances in biology are also discussed throughout this course. Chapter 1, Section 1, The Study of Life. Key concept. Biologists study life in all its forms. Main ideas. Earth is home to an incredible diversity of life. Biology is the scientific study of all forms of life. And humans have studied living things throughout history.